Hello! Happy April! How brilliant it is that we are now in the month of reopening. We have outdoor pubs, Primark and some betting shops opening this month. March is gone. What an eventful month that is, haven't they all been recently? The biggest thing for me was the incidents at the Suez Canal. I'm sure we all know everything about it. There's been a wealth of information shared on news sites, memes, everything. So you don't need me to describe what happened, but basically a big ship blocked a river, meaning that all the other ships couldn't get past and give their cargo. I'm explaining now. Onto the analogy. I think the incident has been really, it's made me think about doing stuff and how actually hard it is to do stuff, especially in lockdown, where most people, and definitely creatives, are forced to create their own material. And it's hard when you don't have deadlines, or you don't have someone or something breathing down your neck to get the thing done, or you don't have routine to actually go out and do stuff. And so this big boat, that they could have just left it. They could have gone, right, that boat, it's in the way, we're going to go round. But they didn't. They took their little diggers and they took their hoses, I think, to clear the river. And it took 6 days, 6 whole days to finally get the boat moving. So whatever activity you have to do, whatever chore, whatever fun thing, give it a go, because you might feel like that big boat now. You might feel like you're getting nowhere. But just doing a little bit every day will eventually get you moving once more. So I thought I'd open with that because I know I really need to hear it now, and maybe someone out there does. The story that I wanted to share with you for April is unrelated to Easter and the strange snow and sun that we're having at the minute. Sometimes it's good to do a thematic story, other times it's good to do a story we like. Today it's the latter. This is a story from Geoffrey Chaucer and the Canterbury Tales, and it was the inspiration to J.K. Rowling's Deathly Hallows Brothers story. So, let's dive in. There were once 3 men who had gone out and got merry at an old watering hole in the middle of the night. These 3 were the lowest of the low, and they dabbled in every sin imaginable. Gluttony, greed, adultery, and general debauchery. Basically, they were not nice people. Inconveniently, they had never met before this moment. So what had brought the 3 together? Well, a mutual friend had passed away recently from natural causes. And it was a celebration of their life, a wake, if you will. And so these 3 ended up crossing paths and talking. And as they talked, they discovered all these parallels and similarities with each other, and actually started to get merry and have a good time together. So much so that when the wake was over and all the other wake goers went off their merry way to their houses and to continue the party, these 3 stayed. They continued drinking, they continued telling stories, and they got to a state where they came up with this idea. You see, they wanted to avenge that mutual friend, and to do so, they were going to find and kill Death. Well, I know what you're thinking, it's quite a jump to go to, but if you had the mind of these cretins and gone through the circumstances that they had, you too would have probably come to a similar conclusion. And so it was the middle of the night, and they went out into the woods, into the dark, dark forest, to search for death. They knew he must be near because of what had occurred. So they looked behind the trees, behind the rocks, in the dark. They looked and they searched, and then they were distracted by something in the distance. There was a light coming, and as they got closer, they saw it was coming from the bottom of a tall, tall tree. And as they got even closer, they realized it was coming from a bag. The light was emitting from a bag of gold. Well, once the three saw this, all thoughts of pleasantries ran out the window, and they ran forward and grabbed hold of the bag, all three of them, until they were in a sort of stalemate where none of them could take the bag. They paused for a moment in this strange state of affairs, and then the man with the half-moon spectacles and long beard began to speak. I have just been released from prison, and I need this money to get myself back in the good books with my friends and family. They are going to welcome me into their homes. This money will help. The second took the silence as his cue to speak. He had a shaggy beard and moustache and very, very sunken eyes. I have been involved in a relationship with two very demanding women. And if I am to make this relationship continue, as I hope I do, this money will be needed to keep both of them happy. The third waited a few more moments before he spoke. He was a tall man, very, very skinny, and he spoke with a well-travelled voice. I have been all across the land, and I have seen many a thing, and I've got myself into all sorts of trouble with people who are very nasty indeed. And if I am to pay just a small fraction of the debts that I'm owed, then this money is needed for me, so I can keep them off me back and keep myself safe, so I can continue travelling around. Well, the three had stated their cases, and it was clear that they were coming no closer to a decision. And as they sat there holding on to that bag of gold, the sun began to rise, and as it did, so did another problem. For if one of them had won the argument and had taken the bag of gold back into the town, they would surely be accused of stealing it and have it taken from them. And so it was decided that they would wait it out. Wait out the entire day, come to a decision, and then in the next night they could take the bag freely under the cover of darkness. As they sat there, their stomachs began to grumble. They hadn't eaten at the wake, for they were more bothered about the drink. And if they didn't get some food sorted surely, they would simply perish of hunger. Why don't one of you go out and get some supplies? I will stay here with the other, and that way the bag will be safe for when they return. Well, I'd be pretty happy to go out and get some. You see, I'm well travelled, and I know the sort of things that keep you sustenance up, so you can make sure you have some good food in you and drink in your belly. I'll go now, should I? Well, the third man, the tall skinny man, he went off. And as he did, an idea came to his mind. For of course he stopped at the bakery for bread. And of course he stopped at the market to buy some wine. But he made a final trip to the apothecary, which, for those of you who were not born in the 16th century, is a place you can buy poison. And as he bought it, this idea fell into his mind. He walked back, dicing the wine with the poison. Well, as he slowly returned, the other two men were sat, also plotting. I am an old, frail man, but I think we should split this gold. I have this knife from my time inside. You use that when he returns, and then we can have the gold to ourselves. So the old wise man gave the sunken man his knife, and they waited. Well, when the third man returned, things moved very quickly. He came down and he poured the wine. And before they had time to say cheers, the second man jumped him. Because he was tall and skinny, it was quite a fight. They were pushing each other one way and the other, but eventually the second man took the knife out, and you can finish the sentence. And as the first and second man watched, as the third man lay there bleeding, as the breath left his body, Death watched from afar and smiled as he took one of the men for himself. But he wasn't done yet, for you see the second man, greedy and feeling merry, poured that wine for him and the old man, and they said cheers. And the second man drank the wine, downed it in one, whereas the old man waited. And he waited as the second man fell to the ground, and he waited as the second man began to convulse, and he waited as the second man's mouth began to foam. And only when he was completely still did he pour the wine away, take the gold, and return home. Well, death had been for this old wise man many times since this moment. He had taken friends and family members, but try as he might, whatever trap he lay in this old man's way, the old man evaded it, and evaded death. But he knows deep down that one day the old man will greet death like an old friend. Perhaps not today, perhaps not even tomorrow, but one day. I'm pretty happy to go out and get some stuff. Actually, it's the third man that does it. Sure, the one whose accent comes from all over. And of course, he stopped at the alcohol place, at the grocery store. Off license, sure. And of course, man mouths, lots of them, and he waited